Good morning. This is Jeremy. It's Thanksgiving Day in Canada. It's Monday, October the 11th. And because of Thanksgiving Day, I thought I'd just take a little journey into the past. So we're looking at my amateur radio rack here. And this guy down here, this is the Hammarlund HQ100AC receiver. Now this is the first receiver I got when I was about, I guess, 13, 1964. My neighbor Tommy Brennan, he had a night kit, Star Roamer kit, which he built himself. And he was the guy who got me interested in this. In fact, I don't think I'd have a career today if it wasn't for Tommy. He was a really, really smart guy. So I really wanted a shortwave receiver badly. Anyways, my dad was in New York on a business trip, and he brought this home. And I remember getting it on Christmas. It was in a big white box. It said A. Giannini Scientific Company. So this was my first journey into amateur radio. And then later on, when I was in engineering school, I got this Drake transceiver, which was fantastic. So it enabled me to transmit. I got my advanced license at that point. And then after that, I built this little guy here. This is the Elecraft K2. And that was a great little kit. And then I've got some various software radios, the RF Space SDR IQ. And there's an interesting radio from Elector magazine. I built that kit. They have a whole series of SDR radios. So anyways, let's just go over to the bench here. This is a little bit of memorabilia of my shortwave listening days. This is an article on the HQ100A receiver from, let's see, it was June 2014 from QST magazine. There's my adorable cat Teo. She used to live on top of the radio because it was warm in the winter, and as well she could sharpen her claws in the little holes on the chassis. There's an interesting article called Updating the Vacuum Tube Receiver from Ham Radio, December 1978. And these are a bunch of QSL cards I've got over the years. That's Swiss Radio, that's Portugal, that's the BBC, that's Radio Sweden, East Germany, Radio Budapest, Switzerland Calling, Radio Prague, Radio Havana, Cuba, Voice of the Andes, Radio Moscow, Radio Netherlands, and the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. So anyways, that's just a little bit of overview of some of the stuff associated with the receiver. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a receiver out of the rack. I'm going to put it on the bench here. We'll look at the front panel, and then we'll disassemble it and look inside, and we'll take it outside and see if it works. I haven't tested it for about 20 years, but it never lost a tube. It's worked perfectly since 1964, so hopefully it'll work again. Okay, so I've taken the HQ100AC out of its chassis, or out of its, there's a cover that goes over the back, so that's come off. So we're just looking at the front panel here. Here's the main tuning. You select your band here. You got 0.5 megs to 1.6, 1.6 to 4, 4 to 10, 10 to 30. And then there's a 20 meter band spread there for the 20 meter band. There's your main tuning. Oscar Hammarlund was a Swedish engineer, a really smart guy. And that's what he's famous for is his capacitor. So there's the main tuning capacitor. And there's the band spread capacitor. It's a smaller guy. The unit had 10 tubes. So you can see in here there's 10 tubes. There's the clock, and you could set the clock to turn on and off as well. And over here we have an S meter. That was very handy. And these two controls here are for selective bandpass filter. So you can narrow or widen the bandpass around the receiver or the received signal you're looking at. There's the band spread control. This is for the BFO, so you could actually receive single sideband on here as well by inserting the BFO. So that's the front panel. Let's look at the back panel. So here's the back panel here. Originally, this is for the antenna. This would be for, let's say, a dipole, and there's the ground. What I found when I first got the unit is, and I was pretty young at the time, I found when I attached the ground, there was 45 volts between the chassis and the ground, so that gave me a hell of a whop. So what I did, I read an article and I installed, this is an AC filter, but it's got a 3-prong plug. So it automatically grounds the chassis. So when you put the cold water ground on here, you don't get any AC from the chassis to the ground. So that was a big improvement because that could be quite dangerous. Also, I put an SO239 so I could attach the antenna easily. Here the speaker just goes there. So that's the rear view of the receiver. The receiver's not light, it's quite heavy. I was surprised when I took it out of the rack. I hadn't lifted it for a while, so it's heavy. Gee, it must be about 30-40 pounds at least. So let's put the cover back on and let's fire it up and see if it works. I haven't turned it on for about 20 years. One thing before we turn it on, I just wanted to show you what it looks like underneath. That's the view underneath. This was before the era of printed circuit boards, so everything was hand wired. You see a lot of capacitors in there, a lot of ceramic capacitors and mica capacitors. They're the ones that are used in RF, and there's my line filter there. Okay, so now the moment of truth. I don't think I've turned this on for 20 years. I've got a little alligator clip antenna here. I can't go out in the balcony because our apartment, they're rebuilding the balcony, so they're locked off. So hopefully I'll pick up at least some broadcast signals here. So I've got that shoved into the center conductor of the SO239. There's my AC power coming in. So I've got it set up from 0.54 to 1.6. See if I remember where that is. I'll be around 680 on the bottom there. So let's see. We'll turn it on. Hopefully we don't see any smoke. And I've got a speaker connected here. This is an Audax speaker. Okay, so it's warming up. My God, it works. What do you know?
Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel. With one half, David Card for his empirical contributions to labor economics.
That's around 680. Well, there we go, guys. It's working.